according to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the 2014 Ebola epidemic is one of the largest that has affected multiple countries in West Africa. On October 8th, a man named Thomas Duncan passed away in Dallas, Texas because of Ebola. Since then, multiple cases have been popping up throughout the world. Ebola has been an increasingly mentioned topic in news, social media, and etc. So I wanted to take the time to learn more information about it. And I hope by sharing the information I found with you guys, you can learn some new facts too. So a little bit about, first I will talk about the history, then I will talk about what it actually is, and last I will talk about the spread of Ebola, how it's spreading and transmitting to different states. So first let's talk about the history. Ebola first emerged in 1976 in Zaire, which is in Africa. It got its name after the Ebola River, which is right here. The first case that was in Zaire, there were 318 reported cases, and of those 318, 280 died. That's a mortality rate of 88%. So let's say everyone in here were to have Ebola, which is 27 in here, right?
Yeah.
About 24 or 23 of us would die from it. The next, the 2014 one that we have now, there are 5,841 reported cases, and of those, 2,946 have died, which is the 2014 Ebola case that's happening currently. Scientists say that it comes from African fruit bats. Rachel Retner, who is a senior writer and got a master's from University of San Francisco, writes an article called "Where Did Ebola Come From?" that there are 3 types of bats that have the gene to have the actual virus, which is the hammerheaded bat. This was a weird bat to look at. It has a big schnauzer. The Franklin's epauleted bat, and cute little color fruit bat. I thought it was cute. Now that we've talked about a little bit of the history and where it comes from, let's talk about what it actually is. So Ebola is it's a virus. It comes from the family called Filoviridae, or filovirus. There are actually different types of Ebola named after the different locations that they were found in. So there, as you can see, there's Zaire, Sudan, Bundibugyo, Reston, and Typhus. But Reston is not active in humans. It's only active in animals, non-humans. According to George Krukik, who has an MBA at the University of San Francisco, he says that Ebola it causes a hemorrhagic fever, and that causes internal bleeding and external bleeding, which can't be explained. And there's it takes about 3 weeks to start showing actual symptoms when you have Ebola, which is why it's kind of difficult, because if you're in contact with somebody before that, you can still get it, but it's not like because it takes up to 3 weeks to show. So let's talk about the transmission and how it transmits from one person to another. There are a few myths. People say that I thought it was airborne. It's not airborne, it's not waterborne, and it's not foodborne. You actually have a bigger chance of getting, healthcare people have a bigger chance of getting it, people that work with it in the hospital, people that work with patients who are affected, because they have more chance of touching the blood, the needles, syringes, etc. It can spread from animal to human, and then from human to human. So I don't think it can spread back from human to animal. It can spread with exposure to broken skin, eyes, anything that's an open wound is you have exposure to get Ebola. There are in the affected animals, it's more like if you're cutting up meat, if you're touching blood, you have big chance of getting Ebola. So that's pretty much it. I hope that by learning a little bit more facts, you know more about how it's transmitted, and we talked about the history of Ebola and what it is, and then we talked about how it can be transmitted. So I hope that helped you learn a little bit more about the actual virus and disease. Thank you.